So once again, good evening. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you for taking time out of your day, but we are so excited to share with you this very, very important topic of mental health and wellness. The subtitle is Healthy Minds, Healthy Bodies, and Healthy Self. This is presented by the Pennsylvania Education Team. We are members of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, founded in 1914 at Howard University by three of our illustrious founders. And we are so proud to be here this evening. Like I said, this is the second part of our series, our Courageous Conversation series. And we brought to you experts in the field of mental health, mental and wellness, so that they can present this courageous conversation, this topic to you all. So once again, thank you for being here. We're going to get our program started. First, we want to start off by setting the stage. As said before, this is presented by the Pennsylvania Educational Team. My name is Dr. Maurice Jones, and I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And I'll get to the bios of our keynote speakers, our stage to this evening. So you might ask the question, what is a courageous conversation? What are those conversations? What do they look like? Courageous conversations are dialogues in which participants commit to engaging one another with honesty, open-mindedness, vulnerability, but most importantly, the ability to listen deeply to one another and get a better understanding of each other's perspectives. Okay, so that's what a courageous conversation is. At points in times, these courageous conversations can be uncomfortable, but more importantly, the reason why we need to have them is because they are a catalyst for change. They are the jump start and the light that fires for change. Now, in order for us to engage in a courageous conversation, we have 4 agreements that we kind of listen to, or 4 agreements that we focus on. The first is staying engaged, and the next slide is going to talk about how you all as participants can remain engaged and get engaged into these conversations. The second agreement is we want to expect to experience discomfort. Some of the topics you might hear this evening, some of the points you might hear might reflect on trauma that you had in the past, but it's okay to live in that discomfort so that we can move forward, okay? Third, we want to agree on that we want to speak your truth. So if you have the opportunity, or if something provokes you or something pricks your heart to speak, please unmute yourself and be able to speak your truth, ask the questions that you need to hear. Because like I said, we brought to you 3 experts in the field of mental health and of trauma and of healthy living. So we want to make sure that we give you those resources. Last but not least, our 4th agreement is we want to expect and accept a lack of closure. Some of these topics, and especially this topic for this evening, is not something that we can solve in an hour or solve this evening. But we are having this conversation to start start the conversation so that we can move forward. And as we said, become a catalyst for change. So we can go back to our coworkers, to our friends and families, and have these types of conversations. So getting engaged, what does engaged look like in this platform? Being engaged in this platform, you have multiple ways to comment and to share your input. The first way is for you to, as we all are familiar with Zoom, given the pandemic, please put your comments, your questions in the Zoom chat, and we'll make sure to uplift those and highlight those to our experts as they answer them in the flow of their presentations. Also, like I said, if you feel that something in the topic that is mentioned, you want to mention something, or you want to add some additional comments, please raise your virtual hand by clicking the notification on your screen through Zoom, and I will recognize that, and when the time allows, we'll allow that space for you to unmute yourself and to speak freely on the particular topic. Last but not least, and most importantly, we have a survey that I'm going to put the link in the chat, but also give it to you towards the end of this particular presentation, that we encourage for you to give us the feedback of this presentation and of this session. More importantly, we want you to put your comments and put your questions in there, because we will have our experts reach out to you if you have an engaging question that you need answered that wasn't answered during this presentation and during the session. So once again, we appreciate you for being here. I want to go through the backgrounds of our 3 keynote speakers. As I said, this is their life work. This is what they do on a daily basis. This is what they went to school for. They are licensed practitioners in their field of everything that they do. So please excuse me, is a typo right there. The first presenter that we have is Miss Renee Ritter. Not sure why that doubled up there. So she has a master's degree in psychology, as well as many other degrees and backgrounds and experience. She started her journey with a Bachelor's of Arts from Millersville University, where she continued to have She continued to have her master's, as well as she's currently a doctoral student as she's going for her her degree, educational degree in leadership. She has experience. She currently works at the high school and community schools, and she is a huge service to the community as a liaison between traumatic instances and traumatic things that students go through or families go through. She helps give them the resources that they need to be successful in everything that they do. So that is Miss Renee Ritter. That's our first keynote speaker. She's also a proud member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. I see a couple of her sorors and a couple of her chapter mates online. So please definitely we want to recognize her for that. Our next keynote speaker we want to highlight is Miss Victoria Valdes. She's a licensed social worker here in the county of York. She started her journey with a Bachelor's of Arts at Millersville University, then continued on to Temple University, where she obtained a Master's of Science in Social Work. She is currently a doctoral student at Bowie State University in their doctoral program going for educational leadership, as well as many different other certs. She is certified in suicide prevention and a suicide prevention trainer, as well as a mental health and first aid trainer. She's also a proud member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. Last but not least, our last keynote speaker is Miss Mactavia Hoody. She is a licensed social worker here in the county of York and in the state of Pennsylvania. She started off her educational career with a Bachelor's of Science from York College of Pennsylvania, continued on to Millersville University, where she obtained a Master's of Social Work, and is currently a doctoral student at Liberty University, pursuing a doctorate of educational leadership. She's the founder of Renewed Hope Foundation Incorporated, and is also a proud member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. So that we can maximize our session, maximize our time, I'm going to step completely out of the way and allow our keynote speakers to introduce themselves, but more importantly, give them the floor so that they can engage us into this courageous conversation. So without further ado, I want to start off our courageous conversations with our panelists and our keynote speakers for this evening. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hi, I am Victoria Valdes, and I'm here to talk about mental wellness. First, I want to give a thank you to Dr. Jones and the Brothers of Phi Beta Sigma for allowing us to have this very important conversation. I always say that we have to take care of our minds and our hearts the same way that we do our bodies. It's important. It's an important conversation to have. So I am grateful to have it, and I am grateful to have it alongside of two women that are my sisters, my colleagues, and my friends. So today's discussion is on mental health. Mental health includes our emotional, our psychological, and our social well-being. It impacts everything: how we think, how we feel, how we act, our decisions, our choices that we make, how we handle stress, how we relate to others. I always tell my kids that feelings are neither right or wrong, they just are. So it's important to make decisions based on facts, because when we're not feeling our best selves, that can impact every decision that we make. There's a lot of contributing factors that go into our mental wellness. There's biological factors such as genetics, how our brain is wired, life experiences such as trauma, abuse, even just like stress. There's positive stress, there's negative stress. You think about getting in your car and experiencing traffic, that's a negative stress. Or even positive things can be stressful, such as getting married or going to school or planning a big presentation. It's exciting, it's fantastic, but it also can cause a little stress and anxiety. So those things can all contribute to your mental wellness, as well as your lifestyle choices, such as diet, exercise, social support, etc. So there is mental wellness, there's mental health, and there's a serious mental illness. So medically, mental health condition is referred to as any mental illness, mental behavior, or emotional disorder ranging from mild to moderate. and it could be like anxiety, depression, PTSD. And then there's also serious mental illness when there is emotional disorder that results in serious functioning that impacts your day-to-day, which could be schizophrenia, bipolar, etc.
I actually do see a chat in there, Ms. Valdes, a question in the chat. The question says that when comparing mental wellness, the mental health conditions and the serious mental illnesses, have you been run across individuals that have a mix of both? Can they have more than one diagnosis?
Certainly. So everybody has mental wellness. Everybody has to take care of their minds. That is the day-to-day functioning of our brain. You really look at like duration, intensity, and frequency when you're experiencing symptoms like irritability, lack of sleep, and that's how you would determine if it's how much it impacts your daily functioning would determine whether if it's a mental health condition or if it's like more severe and impacting your daily life. So your brain impacts everything, how you think, how you feel, if you're easily offended, your emotions, like your brain communicates to your body. It signals how to move, when to go to sleep, when to wake up, and it impacts your physical and your behavior too. So symptoms can include just lack of concentration, sleeping difficulties, withdrawal from friends or activities, if you're feeling tired or lethargic, or if you have excessive thoughts of worry, fear, guilt, and it even impacts like your relationships and can create strains on them. So here's just some stats. I won't read them to you, but adults, 1 in 5 people have experienced mental illness, and 5.6 have experienced serious mental illness, and 6.7% have experienced like co-occurrence with substance abuse too. And it's always important to mention about suicide. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people ages 10 to 34, and suicide is the 10th leading cause of death.
Another question just popped up, Ms. Valdes. From given your experience and your research, how does mental health and mental illnesses impact the our minority population, Black and Browns? How does that impact them differently?
Well, none of us are immune to mental illness. It can happen, and I talk about this later in the presentation, but it impacts all of us. It doesn't matter your gender, your race, your socioeconomic status. None of us are immune to mental health. So I think this conversation is so important because there is a stigma related to mental health. And a lot of times, even well-meaning people are taught things like in our house, we were taught like what happens here stays here. At church, you're taught Jesus heals, and he does, but he also created like mental health professionals to help you navigate some of these feelings. Society teaches boys not to cry, to shove their emotions inside, and that women are taught not to complain, and that strong people never ask for help. So a few facts. We know that we all have mental wellness, and that mental health does not respect any boundaries, race, class, or geography. None of us are immune to it, and that we all will experience either a family or friend or somebody that's connected to us that will experience a more serious mental health condition. We also know that recovery is possible, that it is possible for people to live full, productive, prosperous, joy-filled lives, even if they experience trauma, mental health, or a serious mental illness, and that it does take work to get there and to always seek help if needed. I would be remiss if I did not bring up suicide because it's, I think about like Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade and Regina King's son, Ian Alexander Jr. and Robin Williams, and you look at these people who have access and fame and money and wonderful experiences like humor and family and joy, and they still, still died by suicide. So I always try to make sure that I highlight that. So we are always checking on ourselves and one another Research shows that in a lifetime, 20% of us will have someone that has died by suicide in our immediate family, and 60% of us will know someone personally who died by suicide. So here's just a few coping strategies that I'm not going to go too far in depth because I know that Miss Hoody and Miss Ritter are going to go into them, by just creating a routine, consistency, eating healthy, exercise, avoiding alcohol and drugs. I know that people think it's a coping strategy to to unwind and relax sometimes, but it can really add to the stress. And just connecting with your church, your family, your friends, your neighbors, your community, your colleagues, and giving grace to yourself and to one another. And these are just a few ways that you can be kind to yourself and kind to others. Be kind to yourself by pausing, breathing, noticing how you feel, being mindful, being in the moment, taking breaks when needed, and making time to sleep and exercise, and eating healthy, and reaching out, seeking assistance if you feel overwhelmed. And there's ways to be a friend to others, listen non-judgmentally, be empathetic, provide support, take perspective, don't take things personally, give grace, encourage treatment when necessary, and to take care of you when you're interacting with others. And here's just some resources. I know that we all live in different areas, but here are some national resources, some great websites for the National Suicide Hotline, Suicide Text Line, Mental Health America, National Institute of Mental Health, and NAMI.
Awesome. Thank you, Miss Valdes. I did want to bring one question before we pass it to Miss Hoody from the chat. It was saying, from your experience that you see on your day in and day out, how often do you find students or adults are utilizing some of those strategies that you have mentioned?
I would like to say it was every day, all day. And that's definitely what we try to practice and preach. But I think especially now, and I can't even say a post-COVID world because we're still in the midst of a pandemic, it's not as common. And we we just allow ourselves sometimes to be immersed in the stress and the day-to-day. But I think that there is a greater push for not just therapy, but some natural remedies like exercise and good diet and sleep and human connection. So I think we're not where we want to be, but we're getting there.
Perfect. Thank you for that introduction of mental health, as well as some of the mental illnesses that are out there. We're going to take it now to the next step of self-care, and the next phase of this conversation is, now that we know what the signs of ours and how we recognize it, we want to find out what are some things that we can do to improve ourselves. Because we're going to pass the mic now to Ms. Hoody to go through some strategies and some resources for self-care.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Mactavia Hoody, and I'm going to dive in a little bit with self-care. So let's engage a little bit. If you guys can, please just enter in the chat certain current ways that you practice self-care. Self-care is pretty much defined as the care of self. So self-care is taking care of your emotional being, taking care of your spiritual being, your physical, and your mental well-being. Self-care looks different for everyone. Some people look at self-care as, oh, I have to go to yoga at least once a week, or, oh, I need to just sit and binge watch my show. Others have to go exercise like me at least 3 times a week, or play a sport, or just be around people, or also just be by themselves, just to simply just be. So it's always unique to everyone and their specific needs and their circumstances. Self-care is extremely important for us to maintain a healthy relationship, not only with other people, but also within ourselves. Because if we do not take care of ourselves first, it's going to be very challenging for us to be able to connect and be the best we can be for others. So a few ways that I practice self-care, like I mentioned, I work out, at least try to work out at least twice a week. I maintain somewhat a healthy diet. Those that know me know that I was the worst person as far as eating junk food all the time. And that was partially because I was just younger and just knew that I can get away with it more. But now I try to eat a healthier diet. I try to be more mindful of what I put into my body, not just physically as far as food, but also what I put into my mind as far as what I read, what I watch. I protect my ears and energy as far as like what I'm listening to, as far as with other people, what I'm listening to on TV, what I'm looking at on social media. I try to protect all of that that's inside my temple, my body. So let's look and see in the chat some ways you guys are practicing self-care. Listening to music, also good. Prayer, exercising, yes, prayer is a big part of my life as well. Exercise, unplugging, and me time, yes, those are good things. Reading a good book, meditation, yes, those are all good ways to practice self-care. And most of those ways I also practice as well. And I will dive in a little more extensively into those as I go into the presentation. Next slide, please. Now let's debunk some self-care myths. So the first one is that self-care is selfish. I know many people struggle with wanting to put themselves first, especially if you are a parent, if you're a spouse. A lot of us tend to put our spouses and our children, especially children, I would say, first. And we feel if we take too much time for ourselves, that we're being selfish. And it's not true. Making time for yourself is a great way to restore your energy and recenter yourself. Again, if you're continuing to just pour out into everyone's life instead of your own, you're going to fall short and you're not going to be able to extend yourself the way you want to. So taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's actually the best way to do is to take care of yourself first. That way you're better able to take care of everyone else. The second one is self-care is time consuming. So I know that many of us are, well, most of us are professionals. We either have our everyday jobs that we go through Monday through Friday. We're working 8+ hours a day. We spend more time at work sometimes than we do at home. And then for those of you who have children, when you do come home, your time is now spent with them. Those of us that are married, you spend time with your spouse. And then those of us who have family members that are important to us, we try to spend time with them as well. And then in the midst of all these different people and all these different things that we are involved in, where does the time fit for me to make time to do those self-care things that I enjoy, as far as working out or just simply reading a book or listening to music? And so it's very important to at least time out. I know for me, I'm organized. And so my whole life is in my phone. My whole life is in my calendar and my phone. And so I legit go to my calendar every day. Like anyone can ask me like, oh, what are you doing next week? It's like, I don't know. I have to look and see what my phone is telling me what I am doing next week because I have my life scheduled out. And so if you're a person like that, maybe actually scheduling out time to practice self-care within your calendar or within your everyday to-do list may be able to help you, like say, hey, at this time, I'm at least taking 15 minutes out of my day to take care of myself, because that's extremely, extremely important. The third one is that self-care just for women. Women are superheroes, and we tend to carry that with pride, but it also becomes very taxing. But also men tend to not be viewed as someone who also needs to take care of themselves as well. And so that is the myth. It's not just for women, it's also for men, it's for children, it's for everyone of any age. Any adult, male or female, can benefit from practicing self-care, not just women. And the fourth one, self-care is doing anything that soothes you. And I put in bold and italic, anything that soothes you, because what may be soothing to you may not actually be healthy for you. For example, it may be soothing for you to go out and drink shot after shot or drink after drink, and you're continuing to excessively drink or excessively eat. And to you, that's soothing for you. It calms you and helps you. However, it's not the most healthy habit to have. So just because it is something that soothes you and makes you feel good and comfortable doesn't necessarily mean that it is healthy for you. So with anything, whenever it becomes something that is done in excess, something that becomes addictive in your personal lifestyle, it can be harmful to your body if it's done excessively. That is not something that's actually self-care. That's actually harming your body and doing more harm than good. So make sure we are aware of what we're actually using as part of our self-care practice to help soothe ourselves. Number 5 is that self-care is the same for everyone. Like I mentioned before, self-care differs from person to person. Some people are the people who like to exercise. Other are the people who just like to take a nap, which is also beneficial, read a book, music, like you all mentioned different ones within the chat as far as how you practice self-care. So those are all great things. Just continue to practice those, because self-care is different for everyone. It's not our job to tell someone else how to practice self-care in a sense. So if you see them and they're reading a book and you're saying, hey, like that's boring, like why would you do that? Like, no, try to encourage them to do that, because that's just something they enjoy. Even though you may not enjoy it, that's how they practice their self-care.
So we have Ms. Hoody, we have a comment and a question in the chat.
Yep.
First, the comment says, yes, taking time for yourself for self-care is a hard thing to do, especially because you have to learn, because you're always putting others first.
Yep.
So just definitely agreeing with what you said. And then the question was, wanted to highlight question or point 3 for the myths. What are some like isolated strategies or special strategies you give to men to encourage them to practice self-care?
For men, I'll speak specifically to what I encourage my husband to do. With him, I encourage him to get around other men. I know for sometimes it can be taboo for men to talk. So yeah, he may talk to me and may talk to your spouses and people that you're close to, but it is very important that you talk, and you, even if it's just a vent or even attend therapy, if you want to go that realm as well, you can do that. And men, some men also like to do exercise. Some men, it just depends individual on the man and what he enjoys. But typically the hardest part for a man to do is to talk and just be open about how they feel and what's going on. And they need that outlet. So for men to find that outlet, whatever it may be for that specific male, will work for them. So one of the ways we need to take care of our part of our self-care is the spiritual. So spiritual self-care is focused on taking care of your soul. This means that spiritual self-care activities are ones to aim and care and replenish our soul and make it a part of us. So for the first one, some of us practice meditation. Meditation allows us to pretty much just take a break, stop, slow down our cognitive minds, allow us to access our more intuitive self, which turns into us being more in tune with our soul's wants and needs. So in order to recognize what's going on in your soul and in your body, sometimes you have to be quiet and you have to be still, and meditation helps with that. So you can look within yourself. Spending time in nature, I'm not sure how many of you actually enjoy just being outside and just being in the sun when it does come out, like today, or just taking in the fresh air. Some people like to go for a walk just to see the nature and to be amongst the lakes and the rivers, and just going to the park and just being in nature. That is a higher vibrational environment that nourishes our soul and recharges it. So that if you can do that at least once a day, it will boost your energy, especially in the spring and summertime when the sun is out even more. Number 3, we cleanse your space. Cleansing your space can mean your physical space, meaning like your work area, your house, your room, just anything that you are in. Make sure that is clean physically, meaning that make sure you get your bleach and your soap and you're cleaning it on a regular, and also cleanse it of any negative energies. So negative energy can be people, negative energy can be things that carry a certain energy. So whatever that may be for you, make sure that you're cleansing it and taking care of that area for yourself. Number 4 would be connecting with the community. That community can be anyone or anything that connects with your soul on your soul level, excuse me. So for me, connecting with the community for me means church. Church is big, especially within the African American community. A lot of us turn to church as our community. So for me, that's very big. The whole entire panel, we're all members of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. So being a part of that community as a sorority is also very important to be connected to. For me, I'm a part of the sports community. I'm a flag football player and I travel nationally and play football. So by doing that, I've joined another community where I'm surrounded by other flag football players throughout the country that I'm able to connect with. So just being able to find that community can help build your spiritual self. And the 5th one, unplug. What I mean by unplug is pretty much unplugging from social media, unplugging from technology. A lot of us, the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning, we scroll on our phones and we're trying to see what's on Instagram, what's on Facebook. Oh, let me go and check this app, or let me go check this app. And sometimes that's even before we even say good morning to God or good morning to whatever higher power you serve, or good morning to your spouse or your kids. Like the first thing we do is we grab our phones and we scroll. When we had idle time throughout the day, a lot of us are like, oh, well, I'm bored. Let me just go scroll through my phone. And so a lot of times, sometimes subconsciously, the first thing we do is just go and we grab our phone because it just becomes a natural habit of doing that. So if you can just take time out of the day to simply just unplug, you'll realize how much energy you're actually saving and how much you're actually protecting yourself from whatever you may be reading and seeing in the news or on social media, and just protecting yourself and your energy from that drama.
Ms. Hoody, we got 2 questions in here. This is definitely a good slide and a good segment talking about spiritual self. The first one, when you were mentioning about cleansing your space, the question in the chat says, what if you can't get rid of that negative energy or that negative individuals in your space? What would you advise for that?
Absolutely. So sometimes we cannot just get rid of the negative energy or people within our space. Given like maybe at work where you're like, you have to work with these people, you have to work with these colleagues that may be bringing this negative energy. So what you can do and what I do is that I prepare myself. I cleanse myself. I cleanse my spirit and I cleanse my mind so I'm able to withstand whatever negative energies are thrown at me. So I do that. And also when you can't actually physically remove a person or a thing, you can physically remove yourself from certain areas at any given time when you're able to do that.
Thank you. And the second question was expanding on the concept of unplugging from technology. Can you just expand on like the negative impact that our technology has on our spirit, on ourselves, or more importantly, our spiritual self?
Yes, absolutely. So especially when I talked about going through your phones, the first thing you wake up, sometimes the first thing we do before we go to bed, or the last thing we do before we go to bed, is actually looking at our phones. And studies have shown that when you are doing that you are constantly keeping your mind going and going and going, and you actually disrupt your sleep pattern. And so by the time you actually go to sleep, your mind is still going and going. It also affects your eyesight, as well as how long that you are looking at screens. And also as far as what you're looking at on your phone, whether it be social media or whatever you may be reading on your phone, it can also impact your spirit because you do not realize how whatever you're inserting into your body, how much we absorb. So sometimes unintentionally, we absorb all this information from whatever we may read on our phone and take in from the news, and it just enters and it comes out in different ways. So sometimes maybe with a student, they may lash out after something may happen and they may say something that's not in their norm to say. And I'm like, hey, like, where did that come from? And when you peel back the layers a little bit, you'll realize that subconsciously things have entered into their minds, into their spirits, and that it's coming up in ways that it would never came up before, but because they're feeding their souls with so much negativity coming from technology, they never really noticed that how it's impacting them until it comes out in different areas. So being able to unplug whenever you can is so important for the nourishment of your spiritual self, so you are able to protect your energy. Professional self-care. So unfortunately, being a workaholic is not a virtue. It's not something we should be proud of as far as being a workaholic. Overworking yourself can cause a lot of stress and exhaustion, and it'll lead you to be even less productive and disorganized. So one thing you can do for your professional self-care is to keep work time and personal time separate. For me, I commute 45 minutes to an hour one way every day. And I use that time as my decompression time, that time to myself. Once I walk out the door of William Penn Senior High School, where I work, I leave everything at work. When I go home, I might vent a little bit about something that may have happened at work if my husband is home when I get home. But other than that, once I leave work, that's it. Because once I leave work, I make it known to myself that now I have to give my time towards other things, whether it's my own personal self-care and just having that decompression time, or just coming home and just either reading or making dinner or whatever it may be. That is my personal time. That is my time to do that. And my work time is my work time. So protecting yourself with the work time, as far as like when you get home, don't take phone calls from work or your colleagues wanting to take up your time while you're at home wanting to call and talk about, oh, what happened at work and can we go over this document? And you can say no, like we cannot, like I'm at home, this is my time. You have to set that boundary for yourself. Value time, money, and resources. Throughout a given workday, people are constantly coming to us asking us to do certain things, and sometimes you have to protect yourself through that. Valuing your time, meaning that when you're at work, maybe simply, for example, taking a list and making maybe 3 prioritizations for that day, because you never realize how many things you have to do in the day that don't get done because you allow everyone to enter your space and throw other things on you to do. And you're like, yeah, I'll get to it. Yeah, I'll get to it. But then our 3-4 list comes into like 15 different items on our list that were impossibly ever to get to in one day. So make sure you just value your time. Staying organized, self-explanatory, just stay organized. The more organized you are at work, you will see how that just pours over into your everyday personal lives, and it makes you even more productive. Take breaks throughout the day. I know sometimes we tell ourselves, oh, if I just skip this break and if I just skip this lunch and I just work through that, I'll be able to get such and such done. But you do not realize how much of a toll that takes on your soul and your body and your basically your overall self when you not take the breaks that's necessary to be a functional professional in the workplace. So taking the breaks that you are allotted is very important. And also evaluate your workload. Some people take pride in taking on every little thing, every little project, every little task at work. Some people take pride, like, oh yes, I'm the leader of A, B, and C organization. I'm this, I'm that. But when we have too many tasks and we have too many projects, something's not going to get done. And if it does get done, it's not going to get done correctly because we're trying to multitask and trying to take on too much. And we have to be aware of how much we take on in our workload every day at work. Yeah, personal self-care, taking care of yourself, surrounding yourself with good people. You realize how much people affect you, whether they're positive or negative. Surrounding yourself with good people tend to pour into and have healthier, supportive relationships. Create a list of activities that you enjoy. Those will help you with your personal self-care. A lot of you already listed some, so you guys already are ahead of the game. Plan short and long-term goals. Long-term goals is very important in our lives because sometimes we're busy trying to reach a certain goal that may not be obtained for another 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So we have little short goals in between to accomplish that will help us with our personal self-care. And also start living and stop existing. A lot of us are just here, just in the world, not really knowing our purpose. Try to gain a better understanding of yourself, understand why you're here, understand what your purpose is. And when you gain and have an understanding of what your true purpose is, that's when you will stop existing and actually start living. Emotional self-care, be gentle on yourself and others. Sometimes we can be our hardest critic. Just give yourself grace, like Ms. Valdes mentioned early on, like give yourself grace and be gentle and just don't sweat the small stuff. Like we're here, we're all doing the best we can. Be gentle with yourself. Like I mentioned before, take a break from news and social media. Number 3, connect with friends and family responsibly. Responsibly meaning I know that we're the middle towards the end of a pandemic, hopefully. And a lot of us have not been able to be around certain family members and friends that we're kind of used to. We've become sort of accustomed to this virtual lifestyle. So actually acknowledging that, yes, virtual is okay and it was good for that time being. However, when we are disconnected from people, we are losing a sense of ourself, and our emotional self is being damaged in that way. So understanding that connecting with family and friends is actually really important. Take time to acknowledge and express your feelings, being able to talk about how you feel and what's going on inside you, and being able to add that feeling through sadness or fear or anxiety, whatever you may be going through, be able to voice that and express it. Also, number 5, just say no. No, like I always tell other people, no is a complete sentence, a complete statement. It doesn't require you to give an explanation as to why you're saying no. Sometimes just no will suffice, and you stand by your no, because you're protecting yourself and you're protecting your energy. No, yes, Ms. Valdes, no is a complete sentence. So when you say no, that's what you mean, that's your answer. You realize how many times that we say yes to things that we really just don't want to do. But because for whatever reason it may be, we say yes. And at the end, you realize, oh, I knew I shouldn't have agreed to do A, B, and C. And that's because you have to learn to say no and be okay with saying no and not feel guilty when you say no. A few examples for psychological self-care is practicing mindfulness, reading a nice good book, learning a new skill, or doing a digital detox, which are a lot of these that I explained further earlier in the presentation. So I won't dive into the physical self-care. I'll allow Ms. Ritter to expound a little bit more on that. So now I will pass it on to Ms. Ritter.
It was a quick question in the chat, Ms. Hoody, before we move on to Ms. Ritter. First of all, thank you for the wealth of knowledge that you've given us and the skills and practice that you gave us. But wanted to emphasize on that last bullet, which was no, and no being a complete sentence. What if you have individuals that are so persistent that they don't use that they don't recognize your no, whether it might be a superior or your not superior, supervisor at work, or a colleague that is really persistent? What are some additional strategies you could do to overcome that situation?
Absolutely. So if you have a colleague that when you're telling them no, and they continue like, hey, like I need you to do this task for me. Well, no, I'm busy right now. Oh, well, I really need you to continue to reiterate your no. You can say no in many different ways, like, no, I do not have time right now. I'm going to be busy doing A, B, and C. And if you do not feel like explaining yourself, again, just say no. And if they continue to be persistent, maybe having a conversation with them about like, hey, like, when you asked me to do this and I told you no, why didn't you respect me when I told you no to your request or to your question? And then try to get them to reflect back on themselves, because a lot of people do not notice when they are. And when they are doing that, some people may actually notice that they are being persistent in that area and not really acknowledging your no and acknowledging how you feel about certain things. So make sure you talk to that person, you just make them reflect back on themselves, like, hey, like, why am I jumping on this person after they told me no? Because a lot of us are just built to continue to pressure when we're not getting our way. A lot of us, when we don't get our way, we're going to continue to push on someone until we get it. So stand by your no. When they continue to be persistent, make sure you just say, hey, I'm telling you no, why aren't you respecting that? And see where that conversation goes.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So our next segment that we're going to dig into in this courageous conversation is discussing our mental health and how it attaches to fitness and, most importantly, nutrition. So the first two presenters, Ms. Valdes and Ms. Hoody, kind of dipped their toe into the importance of nutrition and fitness. But Ms. Ritter is going to take the baton even further to explain the importance and the connection between that and mental health. So the floor is yours, Ms. Ritter.
Okay, thank you, and good evening, everyone. Exercise and eating healthy, I know, is something that I struggle with myself. So it is something that I have been working on, just to be healthy and also to have a healthy mind. Everyone knows that exercise is good for your body, but it can also boost your mood. It can improve your sleep, and it can help you deal with depression, anxiety, stress, and a whole lot more. People that do exercise on a regular basis, they have a better sense of well-being. They feel more energetic throughout the day. They sleep better at night. They have a better memory, and they feel more relaxed and positive about themselves and their lives. And regular exercise can have a profound impact on depression, anxiety, and ADHD. It relieves stress, improves memory. I'm probably repeating myself, helps you sleep better. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot of exercise. Like, you can take a 15-minute walk throughout your day, or just, I know for me, when the pandemic first hit and we were working from home, I would get up every morning, pop my earbuds in, and go walk out to the park. And I would probably get like a good hour in, get a couple miles in, and it actually helped me feel better. And even now at our job, Mrs. Hoody, she's leading us in different exercises. Every Thursday, she'll work us out. And it's been a minute that I worked out. So at first it was a struggle for me, but it's actually helping me feel better about myself. Let's see. You can use, no matter your age or fitness level, you can learn to use exercise as a tool to deal with your mental health problems. Like I said, it can give you energy, a positive outlook on life. There have been different studies showing that exercise can treat mild to moderate depression as effectively as any antidepressant medication, and of course, without the side effects. Let's see, it promotes all different types of changes in your brain, including neural growth. It reduces inflammation, and new activity patterns promote feelings of calm and well-being. It releases different chemicals in your brain that energize your spirits and make you feel good. Exercise can be a distraction. It allows you to find some quiet time to break out of your regular cycle of negative thoughts that might lead to depression. It's a natural and effective anti-anxiety treatment. I think that's about it. Your muscles may be tense, like when you're stressed, your muscles may be tense. So exercise, it can help you release that tension in your neck and shoulders, or if you have like back pain, painful headaches, you might feel a tightness in your chest, your pulse might be rapid, or you may have muscle cramps. So exercising will help relieve all that.
There's a quick question in chat, Ms. Ritter. Just the question was, for those individuals that struggle to get into exercising on a more regular basis, what are some things that that individuals could do to make exercise more appealing or more easier to do for those that don't exercise as frequently as they should?
Okay. Speaking on personal experience for myself, because like I said, it was a struggle for me. Usually it's a struggle to get started. So having an accountability partner to work with you to give you that motivation really helps. I have probably about 3 or 4 different accountability partners that will keep me in check. Start off small, like for example, at work lately, instead of taking the elevator, we have 3 floors at the high school. So instead of taking the elevator, I've been taking the steps more. Just starting off small, maybe just walk maybe 10 minutes a day. It could be like around your neighborhood, around the block, or if you're close to a park, if there's a track there, you can like walk around the track maybe one time or something. But just start out small. You don't want to overexert yourself. And then once you get more into it, then, start building up. When I first started walking and exercising, I only did probably maybe a mile. And then I ended up working myself up to maybe 5 miles. And then you can start off maybe doing just like a day and then gradually increase how often you do exercise. And most importantly, have fun while you're doing it. You can walk with a partner. I usually walk by myself because I walk fast and I usually leave people behind. So I'll put in my earplugs and just play some like upbeat music, keep me going.
I wanted to just share too, not just for what Ms. Ritter said and what Ms. Hoody said and what I said. They're all like important daily skills to have, and taking care of ourselves and our bodies and our minds. Like, we're not always going to be motivated to do this stuff every single day. It is a struggle even for us here on this call that do the work and teach and tell others. So I have a saying on my door that the 3 of us do practice, is that discipline will take you where motivation can. We're not always going to tap into the motivation, but if we're disciplined, if we're consistent, if we show up for ourselves, and our exercise and our self-care and our mental wellness, we will continue to see gains that way.
And our jobs are so draining because we work 8 to 4 and then we'll work out after school for an hour. Sometimes I'm just so tired, I don't want to do it, but I'm glad that I do it because I feel better about myself. And like I said, get yourself an accountability partner too, that'll push you. So basically, getting started, like I said, start off small. Sometimes it is hard to get motivated. Like I said, for myself, I knew I wanted to do it, but it was just getting started. So find that motivation inside of yourself.
when you feel depressed, anxious, or stressed, or have any other like mental health concerns, it might seem difficult, but once you get started and you push yourself, then you'll be like, oh, this is easy. Like, I wish I would have been doing this longer. And then make it fun. Exercise makes you feel better, but depression may have robbed you of the energy or motivation you need to work out. So you're or social anxiety means you can't bear the thought of being seen at an exercise class or running a break. Like, you may be embarrassed. You might see somebody running the whole 5 miles or whatever. I didn't let that bother me. Like, I knew I wasn't a runner. I knew I was just starting out. So I just went at my own pace. Schedule your workouts when your energy level is at its highest. So maybe it might be first thing in the morning before work or school, or maybe, on your lunch break, you might take a quick walk, or maybe you have most of your energy in the evenings. I always did mine like first thing in the morning, as soon as the sun would come out, be out there with a few other people walking. And then, like I said, now in the evenings, we've been working out after school at 3:30 to 4:30. And then sometimes I will admit I am exhausted, especially after working 8-hour days. So determine when you feel like you have the most energy. A short 15-minute walk or run, jog, whatever, it can help clear your mind, improve your mood, and increase your energy. Once you get moving, it helps you feel better. Or you could ride a bike, any exercise that makes you feel comfortable. So, are there any questions?
Yeah, there is one question in the chat about the connection, because you had mentioned about your finding when your energy is at its peak. How can you change your diet or change your food to ensure that you're getting the most out of your body?
Okay, I'm about to go on that topic, because that's another issue I struggle with as well. How does your diet help with your mental health? And on this slide, I included 2 links. The one link, it's like different recipes and different tips on what to eat, what not to eat, or how to achieve a healthy, balanced diet, and then, different how to manage your food and drinks. So it's important to eat a lot of vegetables and nutrients. They improve your sense of well-being and your mood. Research has shown that there is a link between what we eat and how we feel. Eating well can help you feel better. Basically, if you go to the next slide, Dr. Jones, please. So you want to watch out for caffeine, and caffeine is found in chocolate, coffee, your teas, and different energy drinks, because you may get like that quick high, but then you'll come down. So try to stick with water. Like, I keep this with me. I'm a little behind. This is a half gallon. So I usually try to get this down by 9 p.m. Sometimes I do struggle. I admit I will struggle with it, but try to stick with water, avoid sodas. I cut soda out of my diet probably a few years ago. Whole grains, legumes, fish, olive oil, or other healthy foods. Stay away from processed foods, junk food, like chips, pretzels, and change your diet to maybe snack on some carrot sticks or celery sticks. Like I said, I struggle because I love sweets and I love salt. So just trying to cut those out of my diet as well. It's important to stay hydrated. Like I said, you should drink. My bottle was 64 ounces, so I try to get that done. So stay as hydrated as you can, because even mild dehydration can affect your mood, your energy, and your ability to concentrate. Eat the right balance of fats. You need the healthy fats like olive oil, nuts, oily fish, milk, and eggs. Avoid trans fats because they can be bad for your mood as well. So including healthy eating and exercising, that will definitely increase your overall mental health.
We have a comment and a question in the chat. The first comment says that it says, I like midday walks and love the suggestion to making it a social activity, which I guess makes it more fun and more having those accountability partners, as you mentioned. And then the question that was in there was basically, you had mentioned about eating those healthy food groups. How can we lean on our accountability partners to ensure that we're basically eating those healthy things and getting rid of those unhealthy options?
Okay, so what I do with my accountability partners, like, we'll text each other in the morning, like, hey, you know, this is what I'm eating for breakfast. And then, or I might be like, I'm in a mood for a Pepsi, and they'll remind me, no, remember, you cut soda out of your diet. We're not going to drink soda, you know, make sure you drink your water. So just reaching out and just conversating with each other, letting them know, you know, what you plan on eating every day or for your meals, planning your meals together, just, you know, keeping in communication with your accountability partner. Cause I know we talk all the time, like, oh, like, especially when it's time to go out to eat, out to dinner or whatever, and you're looking at the menu and you're like, oh my, and you got to remember, no, nope, I don't want that steak and baked potato. I'm going to eat a nice healthy salad and some baked fish. All right, so if there's any more questions for myself or for Miss Hoody or Mrs. Valdes, we are open.
Yeah, we definitely want to thank you for the information you presented and sharing with us the connection between our diet and how that impacts our mental health. I'll give the space for any questions out in the audience or in the chat. If you feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions for any one of our panelists. Because we do have a couple in the chat. All right, so I'll lift one up from the chat. One of the questions, and this is for all three of the panelists, from your experience and your expertise and everything that you're doing day in and day out, how would you say that as much as you are giving these suggestions to individuals that you do, how much would you say the individuals are actually carrying out your suggestions, and have you seen drastic improvements in the advice that you're giving individuals? I guess start it off could be Miss Ritter, and then we'll go to Miss Valdes and then Miss Hoody.
I can say, and working with the students at the school, I know we offer this advice to students a lot. Like, they'll come into any one of our offices to talk to us to get advice. And we offer tips and everything. And I do see them practicing what we teach them. As far as like eating, I'll touch on my portion as far as like the eating healthy and everything. Like, in my classroom, I have students that like to eat in my classroom because they don't want to go to the cafeteria. And I will, offer them healthy snacks that I may have in my room, or they might eat healthy snacks. And I do praise them. I'll tell them, you look at what you're putting into your body, you're making a good choice and everything. And even with exercising, I've noticed a lot of my students, especially the female students, they went out for a lot of sports this spring. They never played sports before. So, I praise them for that because they're getting that exercise in and everything. So, I do see people listening. And as far as the adults, like I said, with my accountability partners, and even those that aren't necessarily in accountability, but like coworkers, like, for example, I had one, she wanted to eat some candy, and I'm like, no, that's not part of the healthy lifestyle. Let's make a better choice. So, yeah.
I would say in my experiences that there is no one size fit all approach to do the work, and that it's a journey and it takes time. And we're all going to have moments, kids and adults alike, where we're going to regress or not push forward. But it's all about just continuing to show up and, like Ms. Ritter said, celebrate the small successes
and trust that, sometimes we don't always get to see it fully manifest. Like we get to plant a seed or we get to water it, and we don't always get to watch it grow or fully bloom. Um, but the work is getting done, and when it is, it just like breathes fresh air into me, into the work that we do. But it really is a journey that they guide, and but we guide and they lead, and we're just there to share that space with them. And it really is an honor to share that space and do that work alongside of our students.
Thank you. And the same question for Ms. Hoody.
Yes, so yeah, I would say have the same sentiments as Ms. Valdes and Mrs. Ritter. Working with the students at the school, and I always have this theory when I work with my students or talk to any of my friends or family members, I'm going to plant the seed. I'm going to plant the seed. I'm gonna give you the advice. I'm gonna try to walk you through certain things. But at the end of the day, it's totally up to that person whether or not they're going to either heed to my advice or take the wisdom that I'm imparting in them. And if they take that and do what they need to do with that, it's up to them to do that. I just have to be okay that, yes, I gave them everything that I could. And if they choose to do or choose not to do, I cannot be upset if they choose not to do it, and just praise them when they do make that decision to move forward and take and heed to my advice. We can't be too hard on ourselves. When it comes to me personally, with the taking care of your self-care and mental health and things of that nature, I would say that now I am better. There are times where I do regress, and there are times where I will eat a bunch of junk food. And even though now, as compared to what I used to eat, and now it even tastes different as I try to regress back to certain things that I used to eat and try to go back to that lifestyle, I see that it doesn't even taste the same. So I say that to say that when we do move forward and we progress in our lives, whether it's self-care or we're focusing on our mental health or whatever part of self-care that we're focusing on, and we move forward and we see the different changes in the progress from whatever practices that we were implementing, we must realize that, hey, I wasn't here yesterday. Like I wasn't here 2 days ago. Like any progress, you should praise yourself, give yourself a pat on the back, celebrate. I celebrate the smallest things. Like, I'm always excited for whatever accomplishments I may make, my friends may make, my family, my students, just being able to realize like, hey, I made it this far. I made another step that I probably couldn't have done yesterday. So just being able to have that in the back of my head, understanding that I did my part.
Awesome, thank you. A follow-up question to that for all three of you was that do you have any advice or what direct pointers would you give to those individuals on the call and those that are listening in for that might have been on the journey themselves originally and then fell off for whatever reason, but now they want to get back on track in regards to all three of the buckets that we touched today, in regards to identifying our mental health, that our issues of self-care, as well as health and fitness. What are some advice that you can give to individuals to get back on track and to stay more consistent on their journey towards better mental health and wellness? I guess we'll start with, we'll go in reverse order. We'll start with Ms. Hoody, Ms. Valdes, and then Ms. Ritter.
Sure. So in regard to mental health, I know with students that I work with, they come in, they may be dealing with whatever situation or whatever they're facing, whether it's in school, in their home life, or in their personal life with their relationships with their friends. I always try to encourage them to just keep moving forward, keep having in your head the different things that I teach them and I work with them with. However, we're all human and life happens. And so sometimes things get thrown at our students just as young as babies they are. Like they are faced with sometimes some really mature adults things, and they are forced to be able to figure it out. And sometimes the only adult they have to help them figure it out is us. And so when we continue to work with them and we see that they're trying and they come back to us and they feel like they're a failure because they didn't have it all figured out, or even with adults, sometimes we get hard on ourselves when we feel like we don't have it all figured out, as if we're expected to have it all figured out, like this thing called life, we're supposed to have it all figured out, and we don't. Like we're all every day, we're all consistently and constantly learning every day, and we're evolving as people every day, and we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves. So anyone that's going through this journey of trying to improve their mental health, and you're taking the steps and you're going to therapy and you're taking steps to have self-care and you're exercising and then you're actually trying to change the way that you eat, whatever thing it may be, like I said before, be proud of the different steps that you have taken. And if you do fall back, understand that you are human and you're going to fail sometimes. And you may take 5 steps back after you took 10 steps forward, or recognizing that, hey, I'm human. Yeah, I fell back, but I'm not done. I'm not giving up. I'm gonna continue to move forward. I'm gonna continue to press toward whatever goal that I have set. No matter how long it may take me to get there, I know I'm continuing to press towards that goal. So I will continue to support and encourage anyone who has that goal to continue to go. Like sometimes even with therapy, you may go and you may go consistently. Like for me, you may go consistently, and then at some point you just fall off and you just stop going, or you just stop eating well, or you just stop just taking care of yourself. No, it's not okay to stop taking care of yourself, but recognizing that, hey, things happen in life, and sometimes we are hit with things that we do not know how to handle. But knowing that we can bounce back, get back to the practices and skills that we have been taught, and being able to move forward and leaning on your support system as far as your family, your friends, or whoever your support system may be, lean on them, because we're not put in this world to handle everything on our own.
Thank you. Ms. Valdes, same question.
I would say just continue to show up for yourself, show up for others, and showing up might look like discipline, consistency, giving grace to yourself and to others. I always tell my students and my kids, and it's really been a practice in my own life, that if you show up, you work hard, and you have faith, that really there is no mountain that you can't climb.
Thank you. And Ms. Ritter, same question.
I would say failure is definitely not an option. Like, we all failed at some point in our lives, but, pick yourself up and just keep going. It's, good to have a support system, to have that 1 or 2 or 10 friends to keep you pushing, or whatever it is that you need to get yourself back on track. But never consider yourself as a failure. I know I keep reverting back to me, but my experience, I fell off. I was dedicated, working out all the time, and then I fell off. All the weight that I lost, I gained it back. But having good friends, coworkers, my sisters, my boss pushed me to get back on track. So, just having that good support system, somebody you can talk to, you won't fail.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that feedback. I do want to give any space for any questions that might be in the audience. As you see, I'll put in the chat once again our feedback form for this session. Please, if you have any questions that you don't want to uplift during the session, but you want to ask in response to this session this evening, you can also fill that out in the forms, in the Google form there. Also wanted to put the bug out there that we want to celebrate in this month of March, not only as a celebration of Women's History, but also this week is our Social Worker Week. So it was intentional that we had our social workers and our trauma specialists present this week, because we want to highlight all the work that they do on a daily basis. So we want to highlight you, and we want to celebrate you for all the work that you do, as you are a vital piece, not only in our school systems, but in our communities. So thank you all for everything that you do. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. Is there anybody in the audience that has any outstanding questions, anything before we come to a close? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. We want to truly thank you this evening for engaging in this conversation. This, as we said before, is the second session of our Courageous Conversation. If you missed it before, 2 weeks ago, we had Dr. Taisha Dupree Wilson, who talked about our American justice system and the impact on our Black community, and that was in February during Black History Month. That particular session has been recorded along with this one, and is on Facebook for your viewing. So our next session will be March 24th. We have 2 individuals, one coming from 2 different areas, one a doctor from Temple, who is going to talk about the impact of vaccines, the COVID-19 vaccines. And then we have a psychologist, an individual who specializes as well in trauma and has a background in psychology, who will talk more in-depthly about the impact of the vaccines, or the lack thereof, in our minority population. So once again, shout out to our keynote speakers, to our presenters. Thank you to Ms. Ritter. Thank you to Ms. Valdes. Thank you to Ms. Hoody. Thank you to the ladies of Sigma Gamma Rho for logging on here. I see my sister, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Once again, this presentation was presented by the Brothers of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, the Pennsylvania educational team. So until next time, as a reminder, our next session will be same time, same place, March 24th at 7:14. Information will be sent out to you, but you can use this same link to log on. And we'll be talking about the COVID-19 vaccine and how it has impacted our community. So thank you once again for your time and your engagement this evening. This is the first of many conversations that we'll be having, courageous conversations that we'll be having as we engage our community and we continue to pull in individuals for everything that we've done. As we listen out for everything, we once again appreciate our presenters and we thank you for your time. Have a good evening.